Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of DCS World. I know you guys have all missed it, I certainly have, and today we are going to be talking about a really awesome tool that I found to help you set your afterburner detents. So stick around guys, because I guarantee you're going to like this one. All right, my friends. So here is the tool we're talking about. It's DCS Detent Calculator Spreadsheet and Software by JC of Nvme. Now, these anything from DBailey, the applications and the edits and the mods that he makes are absolutely fantastic. And he specifies this is absolutely a community project and everybody helped out. And these guys are awesome. Like, you got special credit to Bailey right here. He does fantastic work anyway, but this application is so freaking cool once I understood it. And so what we're going to do, for those of you who don't understand what the detents are, many throttles, for example, like the Thrustmaster Warthog, actually have a built-in detent or a stopper, if you will, for your afterburners. That's why you can lift up on the throttles. So we know you can pull the throttles all the way back and then lift up and it sets the engine into cutoff. But you can also, if you take that screw out right in the top of the throttle channel, there's a detent under that you can flip upside down and it's set and ready to go. And the objective is to set the detent in a way that when you push the throttles up against the detent, you are in military power or mil power. And what mil power is, for anyone who may not know, is as fast as the aircraft can go, as much thrust as it can deliver without engaging the afterburners. Obviously, the afterburners are fantastic. They're fun. They look cool, but they burn a ton of fuel very, very quickly. Very quickly. And so oftentimes takeoff rolls and things like that, if weight allows, runway length allows, you'll actually take off with mil power, depending on, again, your loadout and what the urgency is and what the configuration of the aircraft is that day. But if you ever hear, your wingman or first officer or whoever it may be, your flight lead calling out mil power, they want you to go as fast as you can go without engaging the afterburners. Well, it can be a real pain in the butt to do that without a detent, because you have to constantly be watching the RPM gauges. A lot of the aircraft don't have afterburner lights to let you know the afterburners are lit. So you really have to pay attention. Well, this is going to take a lot of that work game out of this. So let's go ahead and start talking about how we're going to get this done. All right, so jumping into the cockpit of the aircraft, we're starting out with the F-18. Now, if we go to the external view for a second, and I'm going to put my throttles full forward up to the detents. Okay, I'm going to keep my feet on the brake. We're probably going to roll a little bit, but it happens. So here we go. All right, so we're actually at mil power here, or we don't have the afterburners engaged, but let's see how far I have to go to engage the afterburners. So we're past the detent now. Still past the detent. On the other side of the detent now, and now the afterburner's light. Well, we want to change that. So let's go ahead and reset our aircraft here. All right, so now that we're back in the seat, let's go ahead and take a look at how to set up our detents correctly. Okay, because we want the afterburner to come on just after the detent. So we're going to go to Adjust Controls, Axis Assignment, find your throttle. If you're using a twin engine like we are here, we're going to deal with one engine at a time. You can do both engines and it'll be close, but you may have one engine where it lights and one where it doesn't. So that could cause some oscillation there. An asymmetrical thrust there. So we're going to go with just the right engine right now, and we're going to go to Axis Tune. And the things that you want to make sure you check, you want to make sure your dead zone 0, saturation and Ys are 0 or at 100, and curvature is set to 0. Now, if you do require custom dead zones, they also come, add-on or tool, also comes with a spreadsheet that can be referenced. However, for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to assume that everything is set to default. All right, and then we're going to want slider and user curve set. If you have inverted check on your throttle, uncheck it for now, and when we're complete, you can check it back in and test it. All right, so first we need to talk about what the red dot is and what the black box is. The black box represents the input that's actually being sent to the aircraft, okay? Where the red dot indicates the input that's being sent to the simulator. Better way to break this out, the black box is the throttle in the plane, and the red dot is the throttle in your hand right now, okay? So what we want to do is we want to take our throttle and put it up against our detent. Now, let me give you a little tip here. Don't just very lightly, just barely find that detent and just touch it, right? That's not probably what you're going to do in real life, okay? When you're actually flying up with your buds or your pals and going out and blowing things up, you're probably going to do something like this, okay? And I recommend that, okay? Make it as fast and realistic as what you would be doing when you're actually flying the sim. Because believe it or not, this little distance right here that you're seeing it move can make all the difference in the world and drive you crazy, okay? So we're going to put it in, as I would normally push it. So then we're going to hold on to that number here. We're going to find the closest whole number here. So we can see that we're right about 30, maybe 31, but let's call it 30 to be good, is about where my detent is. And the nice thing is once you find it for one aircraft, you've found it for all. Okay, so we're going to change all of these to 30 so you have a nice flat curve and you can verify that everything is set. Okay, now this probably isn't required for this part, but it does make it a little bit easier to read and see what's going on. So let me knock that out real quick. I've been super excited to get everything set back up again. Been working on some missions, some tutorials, all kinds of stuff that we have happening here. Some updates to guides. Should be a lot of fun. Okay, so we've got 30. We can see it there just about perfectly in line here. Again, you want the red dot in the box, okay? If your red dot is left or right of the box, you need to make a change to these numbers here, to the 30. For example, if we were to take this down to 27, or let's go make extreme 23, notice that the black box is left of the red dot. We don't want that, okay? That's going to be significantly less power than what we should be putting in at that time. So we want them to be just about right in the center. And again, yeah, 31 probably wasn't right for what we're doing. So let's go back to 30 and just about right on the money. Now you can only do whole numbers. You can't do decimals. So that's just the game. Okay. So now let's bring up the tool that we need. Bailey has done a really good job with this. Let me get this tool populating. Where are you? There you are. It should be good. And boom. Okay. Now let me expand this a little bit so you guys can see it real well. Move it down the screen here. And all right, so for right now, we're just going to use it like this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select the F-18C and we're going to click this up to 30 because that's the detent number that we found. And then we're going to match the numbers that are listed here at the bottom, okay, to the numbers that are on our in our simulator. So let me show you how we're going to do that. I'm going to pull that screen. I'm going to make it smaller, but make it hopefully so you guys can see everything. So there we go. Do my best to try to keep that as easily as viewable for you guys as possible. So our first number there is 0. So we're going to take that down to 0. The next one is 8. Then what do we have? 16 and 24. 16, 24, 35, and 46, 57, 46, 57, 67, 78, 89, and finally, obviously, maximum power at 100. All right, so now if we hit OK, and we go to the outside, let me hide that calculator for a second. There we go. All right, so we're going to push the throttle up to our detent. Let me get my feet on the brakes, and hopefully the aircraft sits still. No promises. All right, so feet on the brakes. There's the right engine up to mil power. Now we're going to, I'm peaking down the engine because I want to make sure that the afterburner isn't even slightly lit. And there's that asymmetrical thrust talking. Now I'm going to do a slight push forward. And we're about halfway through the detent now in the afterburner lights. But if I come out, there's the stop. Whoa, there's a nice donut. This is what happens when you try to do this stuff like this. It happens. It's the nature of the business. All right, so again, going back into controls, axis assignment. Find the left engine. There she is. Axis tune, slider, user curve. And we're going to do the same thing, pushing the throttle up. And you can see it's slightly lower than the last one was. So for example, let me show you something. Let's just set it all to 30. Okay, so we're going to match it up with what we had before. So 0. And again, we're going to do 8. I'm just going to match this up real quick. Okay, so I've matched the left engine up to the same way we had the right. Okay, so now let's go ahead and check it out. So I'm going to see if we can't keep this darn plane. You know, I wonder if it'll work. Probably not. I was going to say I wonder if the chocks would work, but holding this plane still is almost impossible. All right, so we're at the detent. And it says we're at mil power, so that's actually pretty darn close. And then let's fire up the right engine. Because you have to forgive me, I do terrible with these kind of views. And now I'm going to start pushing past the detent. So we're just on top of the detent now. About halfway through the detent. There's the left engine. And there's the right engine. So, like I was talking about, you know, they're not quite operating on the same power. So now let's reconfigure it for doing one engine at a time. This is what I was talking about earlier about you wanting to do them individually. So let's do it one more time. All right, so now let's walk through the process like we did before. Axis assign, left engine, axis tune. Okay. So this time, I'm not going to worry about setting them all to flat, but we're just definitely going to watch it here. All right, so the left engine, we want, as you can see, still close to 30, but I'm thinking more like, let's try 29 here. Let's flatten it out. Okay, so I flattened it all out, and now I'm putting a little bit more pressure on that detent to see what happens here. So I'm almost going to say 28 because I had to put a bit more pressure on there. So I'm going to reset. So that's what we're going to go with in our user curve. So let's come back over here to our application. We're going to go 28 and now set the left engine to these new values. Okay, so I've set the left engine to our new values here. Let's turn our calculator off here. Hit OK. And let me pull that throttle back. And now, again, forgive the terrible takeoff. It's really awkward trying to take off in this configuration or in this view. I've got my throttles locked together. And so now we're going to start applying power. And go to mil power, so they're both in the detent. And now what I'm looking for is ideally for both engines to come on at the afterburners come at the same time. So now pushing through the detent. And there they go. Both of them at the same time. Back to the detent. And just perfect. Absolutely perfect thrust. Perfect match. Anyway, guys, this was a really cool application that I was super stoked to find, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. I hope you guys liked it. I certainly am just blown away by it, and they've got a ton of different aircraft to start with. You have the AGS-37 Viggen, the 14, the 15, the 16, the 18, the F5. Let me keep going down this list here for a second. Oops. Let's turn that back on for a minute. Let's see here. There we go. F5, the 17, the 2000, 21, 29, SU-27, and 33. So just about every aircraft that I can think of, it might be every aircraft that I can think of, that contains the an afterburner. So I hope you guys really appreciate this little video. I hope it blows you away like it blew me away. I was super excited to find this one. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.